Hello, Destination Tea friends. Thank you for tuning in. Today, what we're talking about is something that we've done for the past couple of years. It's our infographic called The United States of Afternoon Tea. And we naturally, because we keep directories for all the afternoon tea venues in the United States, this is when we pull all our data together and look at how things are moving and changing and growing in the United States. So I've got my handy dandy clipboard here with some data, and I'm going to just share a couple of interesting facts. You can also go to destinationtea.com, of course, and go to your state directory, and that's where you're going to find the latest information about where you might find afternoon tea in your state. By the way, isn't this so beautiful? This is a cousin to the tea plant. This is the camellia that a lot of us in Georgia anyway have growing outside our homes, and it's so wonderful. In the wintertime, they flower. I also want to mention that if you are having to quarantine unexpectedly or COVID is getting really bad in your area, we have virtual tea party downloads, which we added to Destination Tea during the pandemic. And these are so much fun. They have trivia, they have games, they test your knowledge, they teach you a little bit. There's 2 different themes that you can choose from. They're inexpensive. It's $10 to download, and you can download it and then you can share your screen with your friends, and you guys can all put together a great tea party remotely to kind of keep your spirits lifted. Let us begin. For those who are wondering what I'm drinking, it is a Greek sage herbal tisane, which was handpicked by my cousin, thank you, Emma, and sent to me, and it is really lovely. I've got my handy dandy Destination Tea clipboard here. So this will be a quick video. There's just a couple things I'd like to share. Sadly, during COVID, as expected, as all, restaurant industry was hit very, very hard. What we had in 2000 at the end of, so these are kind of numbers that we pull from all the directories at the end of the year. At the end of 2019, we had almost 1,400 afternoon tea venues across the United States. And we saw that drop dramatically by about 8%, so that at the end of 2020, we were down to 1,280 afternoon tea venues across the United States. And the good news is that those numbers are starting to come back up. So at the end of 2021, they had gone up just a little bit to 1,290, which you have to remember is cumulative, right? So that means, however many places may have closed, that many and more opened or reopened. So we saw all kinds of different things going on. Like sometimes it's time for a tea room owner to retire, but there's a movement in the community or word spreads around amongst their customers, and someone steps up and says, no, please train me. I would like to take over this business and keep this tea room alive for the community. So we saw that happen in a couple of instances, sometimes really cool because let's say, the previous owner might have had, a British background, and the new owner has a Mexican background. And so the new afternoon tea menus start to reflect the old recipes with some new infusion of new recipes and new cuisines. So really cool to have American tea rooms doing things like that. But that's what it means to be American, right? We've got a lot of different heritage represented here. So the next thing I wanted to share was regions. So typically the split is pretty even across the United States. The largest region for afternoon tea is the Southeast, which is the home to Destination Tea. So if you're one of us down here, then you are very lucky indeed. That takes up a little bit more of the industry's share of afternoon tea venues. The West and the Northeast are kind of even Steven. They each take up about a quarter of the afternoon tea. They represent about a quarter of the afternoon tea venues in the United States. And then the lowest, a little bit lower than all the others, is the Midwest. Okay, so what you'll find in the infographic that we've released this week is that what we did was we just kind of did a snapshot, okay? So we looked at the states and we put them into 3 little buckets because every now and then when we've done these infographics in the past, maybe we would say top 10 states. And we always have feedback of people saying, oh, shoot, we didn't make the list. But it's like, well, maybe you were in just the next category down. So this year we did it a little bit differently, and we worked with some categories. So we included states that had 25 or more afternoon tea venues, 50 or more afternoon tea venues, and then in the very elite and very solitary category, we had 140 or more. And I will give a quick pause so that you can guess which state has 142 afternoon tea venues. If you guess California, you are a winner. And the next category with over 50 includes Texas, Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. So you've got plenty of choices for afternoon tea. And then we added this new category for 25 and up. And in that category, Georgia and New Jersey just missed being in the over 50. Georgia's got 49 afternoon tea venues, and New Jersey has 48. And what I like to say about that is I find it very interesting because I live in Georgia and I grew up in New Jersey. So I'm rooting for you, my states. Let's go. Let's keep going. Then we've got Ohio, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Illinois, Colorado, Indiana, and Washington. So congratulations to you if you live in any of these states, because you should have many opportunities to find a delicious afternoon tea. So the other thing that we always like to look at and share, keep track of, is the top cities for afternoon tea. Now, why is this important beyond just bragging rights and being really excited about where you live? It's awesome because there are groups all over the country, tea societies, and you can go to find a tea society near you. We keep a listing of this on Destination Tea, and I will include a link to that in this video. So you can join one of those tea societies, and then you'll be in the know when they start planning something like this. Of course, these were put on hold during the pandemic, but what these groups, these tea societies, or just a group of girlfriends who loves going to afternoon tea, what they will do is they will chart a route, just like a road trip that you would take your family on. Well, this is an afternoon tea, or we like to say a destination tea tour. So what they do is they plan to, maybe they're visiting places where tea grows, or maybe they're visiting cool tea shops. They might do some historical things as well on their journey, but definitely the itinerary is set around afternoon tea. So that is why it is so cool to find out about these cities that have 5, 6, 7 afternoon tea venues, because you could literally plan an entire trip there and just have a different afternoon tea every day of the week. So we want to know where those cities are. And so here it is revealed. Now, the infographic will tell you the top 10 cities. There has not been too much movement. Some have dropped out during COVID. Some have lost a number of their afternoon tea venues and dropped out, such as Los Angeles. What you'll find in the top 10 listing for cities is New York City, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Denver, San Diego, and Boston. And I want to be very specific to say what these are is literally a count of who is actually a tea room, for example, in Atlanta, who actually has an Atlanta address. So it is not Metro Atlanta. Metro Atlanta is huge. If you go to Destination Tea's Atlanta page, and we don't keep pages for most cities, but I do because we live here. We keep one for Atlanta. So you can go there, and we have reviewed almost every single afternoon tea. So you can see pictures for those since it's our hometown. But largely, when we're talking about these cities, we're being very literal, okay? I do want to point out that one thing these top 10 lists don't capture is when you have a situation, for example, like Detroit, Michigan, where it's not on this list at all. But that's because it has, I don't know, let's say maybe 15, 20 choices that are in and around the city. So that's the kind of thing that you're going to have to go and explore on your own to find out which ones still have a lot of choices if you're willing to drive a little bit, like 15, 20 minutes outside of the city. But this list is very purely the ones that actually within, that city proper have this higher number of afternoon tea venues. And, New York City has 30 8 in its 5 boroughs. So that is the capital of afternoon tea for the United States, unsurprisingly. But I wanted to also share some of these cities that didn't make the top 10 list, but do have 6 or more afternoon tea venues so that you can kind of have it in the back of your mind if you were interested in doing something like putting together a tea tour when we're out and about again. So we've got Houston with 9, Austin, Charleston, Philadelphia with 8, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Savannah with 7, Orlando, Albuquerque, Cincinnati, Fort Worth, Portland, Pittsburgh with 6. And I'll throw in 2 more, Pasadena and Seattle with 5 afternoon tea venues. So that's our report and picture for the United States of Afternoon Tea 2021. We hope to see these numbers increasing over the next year. We're very excited to see the afternoon tea culture keep growing in the United States. Thank you so much for watching today. Happy tea travels. Break for tea. Important to break. Important to pause and sip. Pause and sip. Pause and sip. What's that? Pause and sip. Very good. I'm just exactly like a newscaster right now. Voila! Afternoon tea must go on, regardless.